MrBeast became basically the first YouTube billionaire, while loads of YouTubers are complaining
Oh
about
my
how
gosh,
doing this as a job
60,000. Ooh,
has
wee, brother.
bankrupted them. So today, I want to talk about like
Dang.
the reality of being a full-time YouTuber, and I want to contextualize that with what's been happening recently with like various different people talking about their financial struggles, but then we have this big like golden boy, MrBeast, who's just become so successful on this platform and has maybe become a billionaire. My last video on old Beastie Boy was about him using AI thumbnails of starving children in Africa. Now, you can go watch that video. It's really dystopian, and you'd think for someone who's a billionaire, why are you typing into AI image generators starving African child rather than using the images of all the people you met when you're doing your like very wonderful charity work? Why do you make it look like all these African people
Yeah, see,
live in mud huts when
I feel like this is a lose-lose situation. I think if MrBeast used the face of an actual starving child and he was smiling in the thumbnail next to some starving child, it would be the same thing. These same people who want to hate him would just be saying that he's being exploitative by using the person's face. Now that he isn't using the person's face, they're saying he's being exploitative because he's using artificial intelligent images. That doesn't make any sense. Ask the people who he's helping if they think that he's a racist. It says rescuing child slaves in Africa. You think the child slave that he might have rescued in this video care about him using an AI thumbnail? You think he should just go and take a picture with an actual child, ex-child slave and put that as the thumbnail? So I just feel like people want to hate. People are going to hate. And I think that MrBeast is operating at a different level than most YouTubers. And when you're getting 39 million views in 7 days, you're operating at a different level. So maybe he understands something that we don't know. And maybe we should learn from him instead of trying to hate on him for trying to do something positive. Sure, he's getting views off of it, but I see a lot of people getting views off of negative things. I would much rather somebody get views off of something positive and get the notoriety they deserve. I don't see any problem with that, especially if he's actually helping the people he say he's helping.
in the videos you show us where they actually live, and they're often brick houses with doors. Could you just unintentionally be a massive racist? I mean, I think the content kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, today I'm going to be completely honest with people. I'm going to talk about like generally like my salary doing this, my experience doing this full time, and just like the reality of being a full-time YouTuber. And the one thing I want to say is I am an anti-capitalist, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
did not start
Uh-oh.
this YouTube channel for money. I barely made any money until 2021. I did it because I loved what I made. I love talking about these topics. I love talking about history and politics. I did it for pure passion, right? And that is the fundamental thing you have to remember when doing YouTube. Do it for passion. And even monetizing content and doing this full time poses its own challenges. And I would love us if we all lived in a world where all our basic needs were taken care of, where we wouldn't even have to monetize things.
Yeah, wouldn't
like
that be
YouTube
perfect?
videos, because
Unfortunately,
if
the
this
world
wasn't
ain't
my full-time
perfect.
job, I would probably change my content up a little bit, make a bit more like better quality videos, better edited videos, more scripted videos, things that take up more time, make less money, but I care about more. And a good example of that recently, my Dune and AI video was a pure passion project, but thankfully it did find an audience. It got me 100k views, so that is wonderful. But at the same time, I can't like rest on my laurels and just act like that's enough, because this is my job, right? So I have to keep pumping out the content, keep making videos, and keep just
Yeah,
using the
but
opportunity.
here's the thing. If you're anti-capitalist and you wanted to be able to put more capital into doing bigger, more passion projects, then why would you quit your day job and make this about capitalism? The moment he quit his day job was the moment he made himself rely on his YouTube income, therefore turning the YouTube into a money-making machine. You opted for this to be your moneymaker when you chose to quit your job to do it. So if you wanted to do passion projects, that is an angle that some people take, and those people usually don't make it their full-time job if you're going to focus on doing passion projects. I believe that Moist Critical was donating all of the money that he was making from his videos to charity for like years, or maybe that was Asmongold. It was one of the two. It was one of the two that was doing that, and now like they're a huge YouTuber and they get a lot of money from it, and people cheer them on because they didn't look at it from a capitalistic perspective. They did things out of passion and out of what they like to do, and so now that it's become like their daytime job or whatever it is to pay the bills, People respect them because they were what they said they were about, and they donated the money that they made from their channel because it was actually about passion. The moment you made this your day job is the moment you opted into this being about money now.
Opportunity I have of turning this into a full-time career, but it does come with its issues.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Yeah,
if you want to support my work generally, of course, I have a Patreon, I have YouTube memberships. I'm going to speak about all this today, actually. And also follow me on social media, Blue Sky, Instagram. And with all that good stuff out the way, let's get into the video. Let's first talk about the higher echelons of YouTube careers. So the popular stereotype about being a YouTuber is everyone who does YouTube as a full-time career must be rich. When I often tell people I'm a full-time YouTuber, they kind of assume I make like loads and loads of money because we see like your KSIs, your MrBeasts, your Logan Pauls, and everyone assumes full-time YouTubers are all millionaires. But we actually have a new case where one of the full-time YouTubers, if you could even call him that anymore, is actually a billionaire. So this actually came out like a couple months ago. I don't know how I missed this. So MrBeast confirms he is a billionaire on paper. In a recent episode of Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast, MrBeast sat down for a personal and hard-hitting conversation that delved into his finances. He confirmed that he was, in fact, a billionaire, but only on paper, he revealed. Yeah, but in my actual bank account, I have less than 1 million. He continues, wow. I pay myself a little bit, but I also have some assistance and things like that. So I try to pay myself what I spend personally a month just to stay even. MrBeast sees his money as fuel to grow his business. When he talks about having less than 1 million in his bank account, I don't think that's because he is just like limiting his spending, or he actually only has like under 1 million. It's probably for tax reasons. Like, obviously, MrBeast pays probably the lowest amount of tax he can, which could probably maybe even enter into like actually paying no tax when everything is said and done. So what you're going to see probably in the next couple of years as MrBeast is actually like a certified billionaire.
Well, that's because he's like he's saying if he spends all of his money, and it would even be smart to say that even if it wasn't true, to go, I spend all my money on my new videos and my new projects, but I'm also a billionaire. Kind of a contradiction. But even if he wasn't telling the truth about investing all of his money back into his videos, it would be smart to say that because it allows for him more wiggle room for write-offs. So if he's putting all the money back into his videos, then yeah, he has a lot of opportunity to write a lot of stuff off. So that's the truth.
People are going to say, well, he's a self-made billionaire. And he actually tweeted this recently, and this plays into this narrative that he's done this all himself. So just had a dream about the time my mum's minivan broke down 10 years ago, and she was stressing about how to afford the repairs. Back then, I was making like $50 a month off YouTube. How the hell did I end up with the biggest YouTube channel?
That's what's up.
What MrBeast has constantly tried to portray himself as someone who's very humble, doesn't care about money, just wants to do charity work, actually sees his YouTube channel as a way to fund charity work. What happened last year, of course, is loads of allegations came out against MrBeast. The main ones I cared about were the toxic work culture and loads of employees just saying he's a terrible guy, terrible boss, and was just exploiting their labor, right? And also, the best thing that came out was something I was saying for a long time is MrBeast always tried to, like his hero Elon, give you this image that he like has no material possessions because he puts everything back into the business. What came out was actually no, he lives, of course, as we all knew, pretty lavish lifestyle, has a personal trainer, has a personal chef, has loads of assistants, all that stuff. But it did firmly dent his image that he was just a guy trying to do all these things to just be like basically the second coming of Jesus. Now, obviously, with all this stuff,
nah, this brother's a professional hater. He's taking it to levels of he's becoming a professional hater now. Stop hating on MrBeast. Of course, he's gonna live a lavish life. He's worked hard and he deserves it. He makes money off his videos, sure, of course, and he does do charity work too. He probably does more charity than the guy talking on the screen right now. I seen a video where MrBeast helped like 1,000 people get their eyesight back. That deserves an applause, brother. Don't be a hater.
Mind and how much terrible shit has come out about his like Amazon TV shows. We know MrBeast has achieved his fame and fortune in theory in a similar way to most billionaires, right? It is off the backs of other people. The one thing I would say, maybe to his credit, that because of the YouTube career path, a lot of this was made in, I guess, a less exploitative way. Like, we can't ignore Google facilitating this, but yeah, lots of YouTubers become very wealthy pretty much just from like ad revenue, right? You do have the other things like merch, which we can talk about the ethics of merch and like sweatshop labor and stuff like that. But I guess it is like a more ethical way to become a billionaire, but it still has the same problems. And obviously we see with a lot of his charity work, loads of problems. And how much is everything he's doing right now is just in pursuit of maybe a political career one day. He actually has like an ex-Republican
So
politician
what?
on his team that
And
helps
yes,
him do
it
damage.
should help him. If there's a man who's willing to give up some of his money and be a philanthropist, his charity should help him in the public eye. I believe that is a virtuous thing to do, regardless of if what your intentions are. I don't care if he wants to run for president one day. If he's giving things away, that's a net positive. Isn't that what you want from the billionaires? You'll see people that make these same arguments angry at billionaires for not doing enough, and now when you got a billionaire that's doing something, he's now exploiting everybody. Like, this dude is a generational hater. He's saying he's exploiting his workers. I know Sneeko used to work for MrBeast. Part of working for MrBeast is having the opportunity to work for MrBeast. The brother is the Michael Jordan of YouTube. He's going to have high expectations for the people that work for him. If you don't meet those expectations, you're out of there. There's going to be a lot of people that are bitter because they didn't meet the expectations and they got out of there.
Control. He knows personally like very wealthy people. He was talking about ringing loads of people up to try and buy TikTok. Like, this isn't a good guy, but that is like the higher echelon, right? That is the peak of YouTube, and I think he does prove that there is money to be made. Now, how did MrBeast make this money on YouTube? Well, he targeted children with absolute brain rot, garbage content that is designed for people who cannot concentrate for more than 5 seconds, because it's loads of shouting, it's loads of like sounds that are followed by text just thrown in your face. It's very like hyperactive, purely designed for viewer retention. And even when you see those AI generated thumbnails of African villages and stuff, that's gone for a team of people who are trying to maximize engagement, right? It's not done because he has some sort of like creative vision. He is YouTube distilled into a business. Like, everything he does on YouTube is pretty much designed just to generate income. There is no passion behind it, because when you look through his list of videos, they're all over the place, like going to random temples, going to like random historical sites, doing charity work. Like, why is he doing all that? Because he just has an endless amount of interests and shit like that and he wants to show the world? No, it's purely for profit. Now, while there are so many like MrBeast imitators and pretty successful ones at that, it's pretty clear MrBeast's kind of career path is not one that can be followed by literally, most YouTubers. He is so famous at this point, and he collabs with so many famous people, which in turn help him perpetually grow an audience. So we've been talking about like the most successful YouTuber ever, and obviously we have a whole host of like millionaire YouTubers who are very, very
Did this guy just try to insinuate that he could be as popular as MrBeast if he had better collaborations? Oftentimes there are people who really think like the algorithm is against them. They're trying to be content creators. They think the algorithm is against them. Really, you're just not working hard enough. You're not focusing on the things you should be focusing on to grow your channel. That's the issue that he's having. And he's complaining and acting like it's all about money and all about status and the fact. How do you think he got to that point? It's from making videos all of the time and putting everything he had into figuring out how to make the best video possible. He continues to do that. He's going to continue to grow. It's that simple.
And they've gone on to become celebrities in their own right. But what I want to talk about today, more so, is we have the YouTuber elite, just like a general society. Like, we have the general rich, the 1%, and then we have the rest of us. And I mean the rest of us in terms of not YouTubers, the rest of us who do it full time. And I am someone who has done YouTube full time. I don't know what the tax year would be. Would it be like 21 to 22 was my first tax year? So I've just passed the 24 to 25 tax year, and it's going well. My income has steadily increased. I've made over £30,000 every single year. I think my last financial year would probably be my best, so probably closer to £40,000. And I'm lucky the trajectory has been up, but I'm feeling quite bad mentally because I don't think my next financial year is going to be as good if I'm comparing my numbers from last year. And that's very stressful. And also, I think it takes a very certain type of person to be a YouTuber, to deal with the stress, to deal with the constant slew of content creation.
The number one job for kids in Gen Z is a YouTuber. I think they said like 60 to 80% of kids in Gen Z want to be a content creator. Everybody is out to get your job. And oftentimes people will have a couple good years at the beginning and they assume that that's going to be sustainable for the next 50 years of their lives, because hopefully, God willing, that's how long you live. And they overestimate analyze how much they make. They over predict how much they're actually going to make. They try to make this into their career, and then they realize it's actually not sustainable because it comes in waves. It goes up and down and all around. And if you're not able to adapt on YouTube or as a content creator, then you're just gonna go by the wayside. People are just gonna continue to pass you because that's just how the game goes. Either your stuff has to be so good that people are continuously waiting for you. That is a category. Or you have to continue to produce stuff with different ideas, or you're just gonna go by the wayside. That's the name of the game. That's how the cookie crumbles. So if you just assumed that you was gonna continue to have $50,000 years and you was just gonna keep scaling that up, then you made a bad assumption.
And to just deal with, being self-employed in this way. And I will speak about all of this in a lot more detail, but I just want to use 2 case studies quick. And they're people like myself, people who've either tried and failed to do YouTube full-time and lost a lot of money, or someone recently, Innuendo Studios, who has talked about being in loads of debt, and they said being a YouTuber bankrupted me. So there's obviously problems here in terms of YouTube. Among us people who are earning a certain amount, like not loads of money, there is something wrong here. Now, the first video is a guy called Romain. I don't know how to say that. He's a French guy, I think. And he says, I'm quitting, lost $60,000 on YouTube. Now, he is a good case study. If you want to go watch that video, I'm not going to play it for you. He's a good case study of basically what not to do if you want to become a full-time YouTuber, right? Because he has a cushy job at Amazon.
Yeah, 60,000 is crazy.
A year. And he basically said YouTube is his dream, and he spent $1,000 on every single video, and that obviously means he would go in debt on the videos because his video would not make $1,000 back for him. And as you can see, his subscribers are still pretty low to be dropping that kind of money. So he went about it all wrong. It didn't pay off for him. And, well, he has that money to spend, so he can do whatever he wants with it. But the one thing when I saw this going like viral around like social media, I'm like, that is not a good representative of what it's like to be a general, like average YouTuber. And clearly a guy who wanted to make the success happen faster than he was willing to work for it. So he put his money down.
Yeah,
and he lost
that
a lot
was
of
his
money.
fault. Yeah,
but
that was
doesn't
insane.
mean YouTube as a job inherently means you're going to lose loads of money. And that's the main point of me talking about both of these people. I think there are problems here both don't really recognize. So this guy realizes that you can't spend your way into popularity. But with Innuendo Studios, a guy called Ian Danskin, he made this video talking about how being a YouTuber bankrupted him. Now, the video title maybe isn't like that reflective of what he's saying, because it seems like he's blaming being a YouTuber on his financial struggles. And I think the content of the video, even if he doesn't think this is what it's saying, it's more about how a guy who is a full-time YouTuber was kind of wanting to get even bigger so his financial situation would improve, but it didn't. And then he made a GoFundMe asking for help.
Yeah, see, you never do that. You never do that because people are not going to feel bad for you. People have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to work. You have a job where you can wake up at 2 p.m. and make content at your own pace. And that does come with its pros and its cons. It's easy to get lazy. But at the same time, it's easy to get lazy when you don't have a schedule. But at the same time, it's like no one's going to feel bad for you. So once you get to the point where you come from this position of luxury and then you're starting to make videos where you're asking people who have normal 9-to-5 jobs to give you money, no one's going to feel bad for you. You might as well take that video and you might as well go ahead and become a stripper. Start selling ass. Go work for Uber, DoorDash. You'd be better off than trying to sit here and beg the people who you that are your subscribers for money, because those people got to go to work every day. Nobody's going to feel bad for you when you make this video. The issue is you can't try to treat YouTube like a business when you want to not work, but then not treat it like a business. So when it comes to taxes, everything on the back end that you got to do to treat something like a business, because it's now your livelihood, it's now your business once it becomes your livelihood, right? So you got to treat it like a business or your livelihood's going to slip right underneath you. And I see it happen. I've seen it happen. I know people that has happened to. I know people who are content creators currently that don't make enough money to pay the bills that they have monthly now because they went out, bought cars, they bought jewelry. I don't want to get too specific. People know who they are, and it is what it is. It happens to a lot of people. But when it comes to them taxes, that's really where you get got. You start spending money, increasing your monthly bills. There's no limit to how high your monthly bills can be, by the way. And I've seen them get pretty crazy on people who were doing good content and was making a lot of money. And then once their money start going down, They wasn't paying them taxes how they were supposed to because you got to send your own money in to pay taxes. It's a 1099. So the taxes don't come right out of your paycheck. You got to send that money in yourself. And you start lying to yourself, I'm going to pay it on the next check. Then you got this big tax bill at the end of the year, penalties on top of the tax bill. They charge interest when you owe the IRS on the money you owe the IRS, by the way. So that can happen to you. You can end up paying interest on the money you owe to the IRS just because you didn't pay the money on time. If you're not doing it quarterly, you could get charged interest on the money you owe just because you wasn't paying it on time. So, yeah, there are a lot of rules to it where if you are not business-minded and you're just a creative, you can fall victim to going bankrupt because you just don't understand the business side of it. But you have to also, you can't just be a YouTuber. You have to know things about business and especially taxes in order to stay afloat. And it's your responsibility the moment you treat this as a full-time job. And nobody's going to feel bad for you if the rug gets pulled from underneath you.
He says on his GoFundMe, he's in like loads of debt, about $87,000 in debt, including back taxes.
Back taxes. There you go.
Mainly comes from being a full-time YouTuber. He probably might not have paid his taxes correctly, so he's getting like a massive tax bill. Now, this guy's obviously like a pretty famous left-wing YouTuber, and I checked his Patreon just as this video came out. Had like £3,000 a month, which is actually like really good for Patreon. And although we see people like H Bomber Guy, who I think I checked once, it was on like $30,000 a month, which is fucking insane for someone who like never uploads like ever. Like he uploads like once every 18 months or whatever. I think it's clear that Patreon model is increasingly becoming like unsustainable. It's so easily, I guess, influenced by global economics in terms of you're relying on loads of people to give you money every month, right? And especially if you're left wing, I would wager that not many of us are millionaires or have loads and loads of money. So even more so, if you're a left-wing person relying on a Patreon, it's probably going to be affected when the economy is shit in places like the UK or the US. And people are quite surprised at him saying he was bankrupt because his videos get good views. And his videos do get good views. But even when I was looking at them, I'm like if you are struggling for money with health insurance and debt, £3,000 is obviously good. But if you have a family, looking at your views, you don't really upload much, that's not probably bringing in enough money. And I guess what these two case studies are basically warnings to people of the dangers of doing YouTube full-time or trying to do it full-time. So obviously Innuendo Studios said he was, fairly successful. He'd never made as much money as he had working conventionally doing YouTube. But I think it's a warning in terms of you really, really have to be sure if you're going to do this full time, it can sustain you, right?
Yeah.
And it can sustain you even when it's not going as well as the good times. So I want to speak to this a little more as like the YouTuber, like working class. Can we even call it that? I want to talk about like the unique struggles with being a YouTuber and the certain person it kind of takes to be one in the first place, right? So I can relate a lot to what he's saying in terms of like, I don't have a pension at the moment and talking about making more money than you ever had. I remember in my first year of YouTube, these aren't accurate numbers, but it's general ballpark. I remember like Christmas 21, I made so much money because my videos were just blowing up. Like I didn't make a lot of money in the 21-22 tax year by month, but my YouTube views between November and I think February were just so fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, in December, you get paid a lot of money. So just think anytime you guys are spending money as the audience, is the time where you get paid more for your advertisements on YouTube. So think like, November, Black Friday, then you got December, Christmas. These are big times. You're talking about when you get your tax returns back in the spring. These are times where you can make more money per 1,000 views for advertisements on YouTube. So, yeah, pretty much anytime you guys are spending money are the months where you make more money. That's why in December, there are some YouTubers that don't necessarily upload as often. They'll start trying to upload every single day because sometimes in the months from November going into December, you can make up about 3 or 4 months of not working as hard from those 2 months alone if you really are staying consistent with putting videos out because you get paid that much more for the advertisements on the videos because all of the advertisers are trying to get in front of an audience. So yeah.
I made so much money, right? And then in my head, I made all that money. I was thinking for the next tax year, oh my God, this year's going to be great. I'm going to make so much more money because my trajectory at this point is just crazy. But then I got brought back down to earth when my channel started doing worse in February, March, April. I'm doing this full time and I'm making less money and I'm thinking, oh my God, am I just doomed to fail as a YouTuber? And then thankfully what I've learned over the years is you're going to have those peaks. You're going to have those falls. You're going to have those months when you don't make as much money. You're going to have those months where you do make a lot more money, especially if you get like a sponsorship that month as well on top of it. And it's all about just managing it and realizing what kind of like the baseline income or your average income actually is. And obviously in the UK, if you're self-employed, you have to pay taxes 2 times a year. And those tax bills are big because your income is not taxed. But for example, I pay tax every January and I pay tax every July. The first time I ever did pay tax, I think my tax bill was £7,000. Paid £7,000 straight up, right?
Yeah,
That's
hurt.
my first tax bill ever.
Uh-huh.
And people have spoken about this a lot. If you're going to go into doing something like this full time, you need to have your shit sorted, right? So Innuendo Studios probably is suffering from this as well. I think Bad Empanada spoke about this once as well because he didn't have an accountant. You need an accountant ASAP because you need one because first of all, if you're a sole trader like myself, self-employed person, you're going to get a fat tax bill and it's going to feel like it actually is taken out of your soul because obviously you're not paying taxes on your income every
Yeah, there are
month.
huge advantages. Like you can make yourself an employee. Like I'm an employee of the Poor Man's Podcast as his own entity, you know, so I'm an employee. So I get a check through the mail from the company as an employee of the company, the sole employee of the company. There are certain things that you could do to definitely help you and settle your taxes a little bit better. You can make certain investments that have write-offs, like with real estate and things like that. There are a lot of things you could do, but you got to be forthcoming with that, and that's got to be the first thing you think about. The first thing a lot of people think about is just trying to go and flex with the money that they making. Like for me personally, I drove a $6,000 car when I was making significantly more money. Like in the years that he's talking about where you're doing like the best, everything is going crazy, I was still driving a $6,000 car. So I was doing pretty well, and I was putting money away because I'm not a dummy. Like I understood that this is just a luxury, and if at any moment I got to go get a job, that's what I'm going to have to do. Luckily, though, I was smart in the times when I was making significantly like crazy amounts of money. And YouTube comes in ebbs and flows. It has a lot to do with consistency, but when you're doing that, when you're making that money that he's talking about, I don't understand what he's saying in those first few years when you're doing good for yourself. You have to be smart about setting money aside.
You're just going to pay that big chunk twice a year. And yeah, it hurts. I'm thinking about it in July because I'm getting my income every month. And I'm like, lovely.
Yeah,
all this money going again. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm probably going to have to pay like $5,000 in July, just like straight out of my bank account. And that's what I mean. Like you have to be good at managing your money, and you have to be someone, in my opinion, who's good with money because you have to give the government their money. They don't take it out of your account like most people who have full-time jobs. You have to do that. And if you want a pension, you're going to have to do that. If you want all these things, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to sort out your accountant. You're going to have to treat this like really, really seriously. And you're going to have to be very realistic about it. And again, when we're talking about all of this as well, I want to talk about like the Patreon model. I just think isn't sustainable anymore. And that means you're going to have to hit a certain level of views on YouTube. And in my head, I got the number 1 million views a month, right? And that is about between maybe £2,600 to like £3,200. And I know that number is something I can have a goal towards every single month. All right, try and hit 1 million every single month and work as hard as you can to hit that million every single month, right? And the main thing is, if you want to make this work as a job, that all requires loads of discipline.
Yep.
And
that's the
not
big
everyone
word.
can do that. And
Consistency,
I totally recognize
and
not
that takes
everyone can
discipline.
be disciplined. Not everyone can manage their finances
Yep.
on their own.
Yep.
And it's a very solitary thing where there's no support. There's no real emotional support because most people who you know don't have the same problems as this. And there's no real financial support day to day, even if
Yep.
you do have an accountant like myself. So you'll just kind of have to be disciplined. And that's the thing with YouTubers, and you see it a lot. YouTubers get way too comfortable. You get way too comfortable making a certain amount of money and doing like not a lot of work, that you start putting out less and less, and then it kind of bites you in the ass where you could be earning less at some point, like I said, but then you still got a fat tax bill. So then you continually start losing money.
Well, that plus you don't get the 401k, you don't get the benefits. Like healthcare for me, I'm paying 5 figures a month for healthcare. Or I'm sorry, 4 figures. 4 figures a month for healthcare. But that's a lot of money. Not 5 figures, 4 figures in healthcare a month. That's a lot of money. You know, and I'm expanding my family, and it's only 3 people on there now. So that, and then you don't get as good of healthcare because you don't have those big plans. Like, say if I'm getting health care under a company, they're more incentivized to give me good healthcare because they get 500 people that sign up at one time. Versus when it's just you and your individual family, you pay significantly more for significantly not as good or worse healthcare. So, yeah, there's a lot of things you got to think about. It ain't just about having a business. There's a lot of, you got to foot your own healthcare bill. You got to start thinking about 401ks. You got to think about how you're going to do your taxes, who's going to help you with all that stuff. You got to really build some level of infrastructure, and you got to have a strong mind when it comes to discipline and staying consistent with what you do. You have a duty to yourself, but also to the people who watch you to continue to give them the content that they want and the content that they want to see, not the content that you want to make, the content that they want to see, because those are the people that are your audience. So, yeah.
And it's all subject as well to your mental state. YouTube is self-employment, right? And there's a unique thing to it of you can't just wake up like myself, go on the computer like a zombie, like I used to do at my old job, and get through a day and maybe don't work as hard. Because if I don't work, I don't make any money, right? And me working means I have to perform on camera. And that is probably the hardest bit, because I say to my girlfriend, who is self-employed as well as a journalist, while I'm obviously on camera, I'm like, the hardest part of this isn't like the work. The video editing is boring. I can do that. It's literally sitting on camera and performing and getting in the right mental state every single day I record to actually film something that's entertaining or coherent in my head, because I don't script things. So it's like I have to have all these things. I have to be in the real right mental headspace. And that for me, with someone with OCD, means I have to have lots of things taken care of. Like I can't have something looming over my head right now thinking I have to go do like some errands after this.
Yeah, if you do think pieces, it's better to write scripts, in my opinion, especially when you first start. In order to get quality content and be a little bit more consistent, I think it's important to write scripts, because if you're just going off of when you're able to think off the top of your head and when you can perform off the top of your head, it becomes a lot harder. Anytime you have inspiration, write it down and go line for line and continue to write throughout the day and continue to think on what you want to write on. Develop scripts if you are a think piece YouTuber. I think that's the best way to go about it.
I have to go like to a social occasion after this. I need to be in the right headspace, and that's on top of all the discipline to make this work as a financial thing, right? And like the video editing to me is like absolutely boring as fuck. Like I fucking hate it. It takes up so much time, but you can do it in like a zombie-like state where you are more tired, you are more exhausted, but you cannot perform on camera in this state. And also what that means when I'm talking about all of this, you don't get paid time off, right? So although you can schedule everything, right? So I can tomorrow, for example, not work if I don't want to. Randomly, I can take the day off. That's all great. And I'm sure lots of people would love to do that. But then, you know, like I said, you have that number of, oh, well, I have bills to pay, I have all this other stuff. I need to hit a certain amount every single month. So that means, for example, if I go on holiday, I've got things coming up like stag do's or just seeing friends, which is going to eat into my week. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have to pre-make content. I hate going on holiday because before every time I go on holiday or just take a break, I'm just pre-making content and I'm just working like 7 days a week. And I fucking hate it, but I do it. I do it so I can enjoy my holiday, I can have this time off, and I can like refresh myself. But again, that takes so much discipline and so much self-motivation. And if you have the Patreon replacing the ad revenue, I think you can get into a place of being so secure and getting used to just like, well, I'll just put out something when it's ready. And my Patreon followers will like that. But what if your Patreon followers don't stay around?
Yep.
What if there's like an economic recession or something like that and your money goes down? That's why I would say to anyone, if you're going to start doing YouTube full time, prioritize the views, prioritize the ad revenue, and create some sort of channel where you can balance things between your interests, upload schedules, and views. And
yeah, basically what he's saying is if you're going to do YouTube and make it your business, treat it like a business. Says MrBeast is now the first billionaire YouTuber while other creators are bankrupt. This video is by Cavernacle. The Cavernacle. It's a really interesting video. But yeah, if you're going to do YouTube, you got to treat it like a business because that's exactly what it is. And if you don't treat it like a business and respect it as a business, it will consume you just like any failing business will. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L and give me the HBO special. That's a brother out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.